All right, we're going to give you 4 players that we've identified as players that you should be drafting in every single draft that you can for one reason or another. Most of the time in this case, it's going to be that they're good values for what we can find from them on a research standpoint. But they're going to be guys that are a little bit cheaper that it's realistic you can get in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round of your rookie draft. So we're going to give you 4 of those guys today. But first, in case you didn't hear yesterday, we look a little bit different. We have a new logo, so make sure you don't skip over our videos because it's not the same logo you're used to. And also, if you did not hear, we have started our Fantasy Domain channel, which will focus more in the season on redraft week-to-week content. So make sure you subscribe to that channel. It's going to be our 2nd channel, and it's going to be down in the description, the link to it as well. And maybe on the video if we can get it on the video. So make sure you subscribe to Fantasy Domain as well as we get that kicked off. We're really excited for that next season. We're going to start growing that right now. So let's get into this. These 4 guys, now some of these guys have some question marks, but some of them I think are sleepers that are a little bit more popular with the Dynasty community now that we've gotten into this. And so you may say, oh, this guy's not actually a sleeper. Well, we're not calling them a sleeper. These are just guys that we think you can get in most of your rookie drafts. And for one reason or another, we think they're going to be available when you pick in most of your rookie drafts in later rounds, and we want you to pick them up just because we think they have some higher upside and some traits about their game that we think might translate well to the NFL. We're trying to identify the best dart throws. Obviously, you get past a certain point in rookie drafts, and then you're just at dart throws. And actually, really, that point comes earlier than people think. It's somewhere like in the mid-late 2nd where it's like, okay, at this point, your chances are as good here as they are in the 3rd. So the first one I'm going to do is going to be Israel Abanikanda. And feel free to chime in, Nathan, with anything you have. But Izzy Abanikanda, I mean, the buzz with him recently has been his pro day. And I will preface with this. When you are talking about pro day numbers, you have to take them with a grain of salt. Because obviously there is the possibility that, they're a little bit skewed or a little bit flawed. Or a lot of people wait till their pro day because they think they're, so take it with a grain of salt. It's not official combine testing, but he's 5'10", 217 pounds. So, size-wise, he's coming in at the same height as a Jahmyr Gibbs, close to a Devon Achane, but he's coming in quite a bit heavier than that. It's a little bit more comparable to Sean Tucker in that aspect. At his pro day, he ran a 4.41. I think I got 2 times for that. I got 4.45 and 4.41. Either way, very, very good for a 217-pound running back. 4.4 something 40-yard dash. And a 41-inch vertical. So that translates to a 9.63 relative athletic score. And I think that's the best among all running backs if that data is actually correct. So with Izzy Abanikanda, he came out during his pro day, he flashed his athleticism, and obviously he at Pitt, this last year was insane. He played in 11 games, he had 240 attempts, and he had 1,430 rushing yards and 21 total touchdowns. So from a production standpoint, just completely next level. And you love to see that. And then obviously in the passing game, that's where we're going to see some concern. And with his production passing wise in college, he had 12 receptions this year for 146 yards. So that's going to be the main thing that people look at Izzy Abanikanda and say, okay, that's probably going to be the biggest question mark here. But you should know a little bit about the context of the situation that Izzy Abanikanda was playing in this year in order to explain some of that. With Izzy Abanikanda, obviously last year, 2021, he was playing with Kenny Pickett, okay? And they threw the ball nearly 4,800. They had 4,723 passing yards in 2021. When you look at 2022, their attempts went way, way down, and their yards went down to 2,895. And hopefully you'll throw that up so people aren't confused by my endless babbling.
Correct.
The point is they threw less. That's what I was trying to get at when I was trying to explain all that. They threw the ball a lot less. And obviously the quarterback play was not near as good at Pitt this year. But because of that, they leaned more heavily, especially in the rushing game, on Israel Abanikanda. And he really did well. And, he maintained, although his receiving production year over year technically went down, his 5.9 target share in 2021 and 5.1 this year. So you're not looking at a huge step down. You're not really looking at a super. And obviously the year before, it could be said that they had Jordan Addison, and Jordan Addison was getting the pretty main bulk of that receiving game at Pittsburgh. Obviously, he won the Biletnikoff that year. So there have been some things, from the passing game standpoint where Izzy Abanikanda may have had an excuse for that. I mean, we saw this with Kenneth Walker last year as well. Kenneth Walker came in with very little receiving upside or history of receiving upside, and we were a little worried about that. And to some extent, he overexceeded what we thought his expectations were from a receiving game standpoint in the NFL. And with Izzy Abanikanda, I think that's also very possible for that to happen here. But obviously, with the athleticism, with the proven production, he played in Power 5. It's ACC, Power 5 conference. And the size, I think the size is good enough to do anything. So we like Izzy Abanikanda. Where do we expect him to go? It's going to depend on his draft capital.
I think he goes day 2.
Yeah, I think he's going to be. He's going to end up being a second-round dynasty pick, I think, and it's just going to be where you can get him. Obviously, you can get him late second. That's going to give you the opportunity to trade up and get him a little bit more if you can. But he's going to be, I think, a draft in every league. He's somebody that we project to do fairly well for his price point. And then you've got the next one.
Yeah, so mine is going to be Parker Washington. We have talked about him, touched on him and his ability to potentially go up draft boards here in dynasty leagues, dynasty rookie drafts soon. He's kind of coming after Jahan Dotson in Penn State. He was in Dotson's shadow pretty much his whole time there. At Penn State, he broke out early, which is good. He is coming out after 3 seasons at Penn State, which we always love to see. Whenever a wide receiver is in college for 4 seasons, we're a little bit more reluctant, hesitant to be super, super high on him unless situation or production is just an outlier. But with Parker Washington, his production, when you see it on statistically, is nothing special. I mean, in 2022, he had 46 receptions for 611 yards, 15.9% target share, only 2 receiving touchdowns, but he did only play 10 games. His best season came in 2021, actually, when he was playing with Jahan Dotson, and he had 820 receiving yards, which is actually only about 300 receiving yards less than Dotson had. So what I think I'm excited to see what he'll do in the NFL is if you pair him with a dominant receiver on an NFL team, what will he do? Especially since he's primarily a slot receiver. I think his slot percentage was about 75% in college, which in an offense that is not known for their passing ability and their passing game is pretty solid. And I would assume that his slot percentage would go up in the NFL. This is a credit to Rybread. He was texting me earlier yesterday or a couple days ago, and just comparing Christian Kirk to Parker Washington and how really their measurables are insanely similar. Their height is 5'10 versus 5'11. So that's Parker Washington to Christian Kirk. 204 versus 201. 40 time is 4.45 versus 4.46. Slot percentage 71.2% versus 94%. Yards per route run 2.18 versus 2.3. Like, just actually pretty scary.
Right down
pretty scary similar with a lot of those measurables and those numbers there. So that's something to keep an eye out on. I think, am I saying Parker Washington is going to be Christian Kirk? No, I'm not saying that yet because I have no idea what his draft capital is going to be like. What I will say is when watching his film, he is incredibly talented in the short to mid-range game in the passing game as a slot receiver. He's very good.
Get those receptions,
yes,
baby.
He's very good at eluding the DBs and creating space. And even after contact, he's had some plays that have really shown his ability to break tackles and get that extra yard. And that's something that teams are really going to value. Penn State used him in the screen game quite often, and that you can be really creative with that in the NFL. So I'm excited to see where he goes here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the Christian Kirk comp. It's not one that, I mean,
it's not one I thought of off the top of my head at all.
And that's Ryan Bread at his finest right there. It's
Ryan Bread.
Freshly baked Ryan Bread.
Mr. Bread.
That's hard to say. All right, here we go. Kayshon Boutte. Don't turn it off. Don't. Listen, I know the concerns are absolutely valid. They just are. I mean, from an RAS standpoint, his RAS was 4.99. I mean, he's obviously 5'11", 195, 29-inch vertical. I mean, guys, I'm not kidding. When I played basketball in high school, I had a higher vertical than that. I mean, I think mine was like 30. So that's horrible because I'm not that athletic at all. I'm very, very mediocre at that kind of stuff. 4.5, 40-yard dash, His shuttle was 4.25 and his 3-cone was 7.14. So again, not the greatest athleticism numbers, and obviously everybody knew at the combine. Obviously, when we watched the combine, everybody was like, okay, Kayshon Boutte is done. And because of that, again, I know the concerns. Let's highlight a couple of the positive things about Kayshon Boutte. He broke out at age 18 at LSU, so a very, very young breakout age. Obviously, I think you have to mention the situation at LSU was a little bit tumultuous for him because they did undergo a coaching change. And look, with that brought some questions about his attitude, about his work ethic, and his desire to be on the field. All of that is completely valid. This selection would be all about price because you've seen Kayshon Boutte from an on-the-field standpoint perform. I mean, he had his 18-year-old season. He played 10 games. He had 735 receiving yards per game at a 20% target share clip and 5 touchdowns. So as an 18-year-old, you've seen him do it. And you got to remember, in Devy formats, Kayshon Boutte was going... So when we did our Devy draft last year, Kayshon Boutte went number 4, and I took C.J. Stroud at number 5. So he was going in the top 5 picks of Devy drafts. I mean, just completely off the charts in terms of his stock, and then has just plummeted. And again, this is going to be all about price. He's 21 years old. He's 5'11", 195, and you're probably going to get him at the earliest, I think mid-late second, probably more like the 3rd. And again, past the mid-late second is going to be dart throw territory. And if you are going to throw a dart at Kayshon Boutte. I promise you will not regret it because he has that upside and he has proven that he does have some of that flash ability. And because he's shown that and because he was a highly regarded prospect that has fallen down for one reason or another, these are the type of guys that when everybody else zigs, you might want to zag here. And you might want to say, okay, I'm going to take Kayshon Boutte in this draft. I'm going to take him in as many leagues as I can. You know, again, it's a dart throw. It's essentially free. There's not a ton of draft capital there from a dynasty perspective. If you're drafting him in the 3rd or 4th round and you're taking a shot on a guy that has proven that he can do it, that had a super young breakout age, and that everybody is down on all at the same time. To me, it screams somebody you should just be picking up late in rookie drafts, and I think he's a guy that will be a very good dart throw and maybe a higher percentage dart throw than some of these other guys you're getting in that range. So you've got third guy.
I completely agree there. Our last guy here is going to be Puka Nacua. And this guy's coming out of BYU, BYU. He did not do a ton at the combine. He was there, but his pro day 40 was 4.57. He's not known to be a speedster. He's a bigger guy, 6'2", 210. He's definitely known for his contested catch ability, which is really exciting. What I think is incredibly intriguing about Puka Nacua, and I have touched on this before, is how they utilize him at BYU in the run game. So 48 receptions off 74 targets, 625 receiving yards. I don't have the stats on me here right now, but I think he had multiple rushing touchdowns and like a few hundred 200 rushing yards or something like that, I think, on not very many carries. But he was definitely a guy that they use specifically in the red zone as a threat. So if you're thinking like, okay, this is a guy that could go into an offense like the Kansas City Chiefs, who has very creative play calling, and they could totally use him like that in the red zone. And he could be a very, very diverse weapon in how they utilize him. So I think with Puka, do I think he's going to get super, super high draft capital? I don't think so. I think best case scenario, you're looking at him late 3rd round, and that might be pushing it. I'm probably betting on 4th or 5th round with him, but I think with his skill set and with how he was utilized at BYU, and clearly the dominant receiver there, clearly a very high character leader on that roster, and not a very high passing volume offense since Zach Wilson left, I think you've got to be intrigued and you got to be really interested in what he could do here in the NFL, given the best possible landing spot.
Yeah, and I think with Puka Nacua, the footnote is going to be obviously the speed. He's 6'2", so he's a bigger guy, and he really doesn't have elite speed. And twitch, probably not either. So you have to wonder, is that going to be good enough for him to be a contributor on an actual roster like that. And so that's probably going to be his biggest question, because you see it when he has the ball in his hands, good things happen. He's very good. He's very good when they use him on jet sweeps. They used him like a baby Debo. Almost.
They use him like a baby Debo. Now, athletically, Puka is nowhere near what Debo is laterally, but vertically he is. Vertically, he's better than Debo is. Debo's a very laterally athletic guy who can juke people out. He's very shifty. That's why they use him in the run game so much. With Puka, I mean, he's not going to be as versatile as Debo is in the run game, but in the passing game, if you can get some long balls to him, he can be a field stretcher, and he'll bring those down for you.
Yeah. So again, 4 guys here that, and this could be completely different, and you might have differing opinions on this, and that's okay. But right now, and we're sitting at a week and a half before the draft, these are the guys we're guessing are going to be good values. So they could end up being, Dameon Pierce last year. We didn't think he would be going anywhere, and he would end up going at the 1-2 turn, which was wild. So everything can change. I mean, if Izzy Abanikanda gets mid-second round draft capital somehow, then he's all of a sudden not a sleeper anymore. Like, he could work his way into the first
early
round.
second, late first. Yeah.
So that could change. But right now, these are the guys we're keeping an eye on. And you know what? Like I said, we're going to have a lot of these questions answered as we get closer to the draft, so it will be really interesting to see that as well. All right. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. Make sure you like the video. Both of those things are great, and we really appreciate it. It's free, it's easy, and it supports us a lot. Make sure you go subscribe to Fantasy Domain as well. We'll put that link somewhere for you to click on. And make sure you head over to our locals page to get access to our Discord channel. Our Discord channel is where all of the domain community, I think we have about 50, 60 people right now, and all of them are on there. We're very active on there. We're asking each other about trades. We're joining leagues. We're doing mock drafts. We got ADP data. We got rankings. So it's a really good place to be. So make sure you jump over there as well. The link to that is in the description. It's found through our locals page. As always, we appreciate you guys watching and listening. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you later.